Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
It's difficult to encapsulate the Nürburgring without seeming like you're exaggerating, but it truly is a monster of a racecourse. In another timeline, it may have faded away into obscurity and become another forgotten statistic, but drivers' desire for its challenge has kept it in the limelight for almost 100 years and made it refuse to die. They better want it today because they'll be racing it in one of the most fearsome cars on iRacing as we get ready to watch round 7 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Just for a little taste of what the Nordschleife has in store, let's head to our track guide to introduce you to its many miles. Welcome to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff. There's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as fluke plots, miss hit miss, bravery corner, and of course, the ever iconic carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dodinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take to the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect. Well, DJ, it's the ultimate test. This is going to be a wild one, no doubt.
Yeah, Joe, it certainly is. And it's really and truly going to be a measure of car control for a lot of these drivers around the majority of the circuit. Don't be surprised if we don't see a whole lot of overtaking here going on, with the exception of going down onto the Dodinger Hoa and down into Tiergarten. That is going to be the main overtaking opportunity. Now, we have seen some chances here down into Arenberg, potentially. We've even seen some very aggressive moves going down into our Forest or down into the carousel. But for the most part, it's going to be relatively follow the leader, and normally on a circuit that sounds relatively easy, but around the Nürburgring that is anything but easy. It's going to be very, very tricky to try to keep up with everyone.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It'll kind of be a survival of the fittest out there. As for the championship, this could have some great effects as well. If we take a look at the points on this one, and right now, Topi Kortaniemi does lead Alex Millward. It's extended a little bit to about 60 points, and Gernot Frisch is still right there within 1 point of Alex Millward. Now, here's where it gets interesting. 3 drop weeks have been taken up by Andy T, and those have not been calculated yet. That's why you see him down in 5th, jumps up back to there with his win last week, and this could be his bogey track. Now, if he has a bad day today, that's going to suck up essentially his last drop week, and he'll have to try and show up for the rest of the rounds if he wants to try and go for the big championship prize in this one. But that's a big if on that one. The rest of them, as you can see, still pretty much your run-of-the-mill fight there, with the main top 3 being your big competitors, although Friesche has not shown the race pace to really challenge for wins quite yet. As for the team standings, how are we doing right now, DJ?
Well, it is Team Essex Lotus leading the way by about 15 points over Equip Ligier Gitanes, Equip Renault Elf, not too far behind them. That's really a 3-way battle starting to develop itself up at the top of the order. Wersteiner Arrows Racing Team sits about 33 points back with Parmalat Racing Team in a nice little battle with them for 4th. Abelard Williams Racing about 47 points back, and then Scuderia Ferrari Spa Cefic rounds out your top 7.
And if we take a look at the race details, it's going to look just a little different from our usual type of race. Only 7 laps. It doesn't sound like a lot, but we got to remember that they take about 5 and some minutes to get around this place. So that's why you're seeing so few laps set up for this race, and it will take a while just to get one of them done. Open setup. And you got to think that most drivers are probably going to want to try and trim it out to be quick in a straight line. That said, having the stability in the corners might get you to the finish a lot better. No spare cars. So if you do wind up binning it around this long track, well, you're going to have to take a tow and wait for and hope it will repair in time that you can get back out for this one. Drive-through penalty at 17 incidents, disqualification at 25. Just like usual in official racing, don't anticipate many drivers will hit those before they'll hit something enough that the car is toast here today. And they just about are done with practice here, and we'll head off to the grid in just a moment. And looks like they are swapping over now. So we'll go through your starting grid, which was set even before this race. They don't have qualifying in this one. Up at the top, it is going to be Andy T with Topi Korteniemi starting from second. It'll be Pauli Partanen in P3. Theo Schleret will be in fourth. Alex Millward down in fifth is followed by Ove Trangrade. You've got Pep Meyer in seventh, followed by Jukka Tolan in P8. Benjamin Kopke is going to be starting from ninth, and John Bailiff will be 10th.
In 11th, it's going to be Henry Charman, followed by Matthias Havdahl with Gernot Friesche and Armando Edwards behind them. Kimmo Väikäläinen will be 15th, followed by Joshua Germany with Pat Lambros and Pepe Fuentes in 18th. 19th will be Daniel Downing, and Gary Ho rounds out your top 20.
Nicholas Morelli starts 21st, followed by Karthik Pai 22nd, Thomas Bartfei P23, Andreas Schuster 24th, and Jean-Francois Boscus 25th today. Nearly a full field, and there's 3 splits. Thankfully, good conditions, as you can see, as they are ready to go. So the engines now start to rev as the lights come up, and the green flag is out. Down into Sabine Schmitz, the first corner here in the Nordschleife. Oh, it's a very good start for Partanen, who comes around the outside of Topi Korteniemi. He takes that second place away, and we got one car off. It looks like everybody else made it through the first turn okay.
And that car off appears to be Ove Trangrade, immediately going back into pit lane. So some problems there for one of our series regulars.
Well, sad to see. Ove is usually pretty exciting and tends to like a low downforce car, but looks like he is going to be on the back foot if he can get it back out there at all here today. So as they weave their way now towards Flugplatz, your order is T, Partanen, Korteniemi, Schleret, Meyer for your top 5.
Yes, indeed, and a lot of movement there based off of Ove having that problem at the beginning. But right now, Joe, this is where it all comes down to concentration and dealing with the aero wash off the back of these cars. Your car's going to be handling a lot differently when you're riding behind somebody coming through these high-speed, high-commitment corners than you would be if you're running in clean air. So you've got to change your approach a little bit, as we actually see Pauli Partanen there doing, just trying to get some clean air on that front wing.
Everybody braking hard into Aaron Berg, and unfortunately it looks like Daniel Downing was caught out. He went for a slide, and it looks like he collected Pepe Fuentes in the meantime, but that's the only incident through there. Now into Adenauer Forst, and as they slow it down into this series of chicanes, they'll then accelerate once again towards Metzgefeld. T still ahead of Partanen. Korteniemi unable to get that second place back from Partanen quite yet.
And not quite able to do it, but again, what you've got to be able to do around here and focus in on is just running as close behind as possible and not losing about a second. That's where you want to be when you get to the Döttinger Halle, and you'll be able to make those moves a little bit easier courtesy of the draft.
If I'm seeing correctly, did Alex Millward start from pit lane on this one? Because it looks like the 10 has a little bit of time in pit lane on my timing and scoring screen. So I wonder if he decided to try and take the safe route. This has put him back in 20th right now as we continue to watch this mid-pack battle on the way down into Defense Valley. Things getting very tight into there as they try to stay out of one another. And we've had another incident. Looks like Pepe Fuentes again, and maybe looks like Boscus involved in that one.
Yeah, Fuentes having a little bit of a problem there. We'll have to go back and check the replay to see exactly what happened. But I think one of those things, if it does take a little bit for these tires to get fully up to temperature here, Joe, and despite the fact that it is 81 degrees Fahrenheit out on track right now, it's still going to be a little bit of chilly for those tires, and so not fully feeling out the car.
That orange and blue machine that you see is Theo Schleret, still running in 4th position. See if he's got some straight line speed as they come up through Kesselchen, and Korteniemi has finally gone by, or is trying to go by Partanen, and they're going to go too wide through Bravery Corner. That slows them up, but they at least get out the other side.
Ooh, that was very, very close running there between the two, and some high commitment there from Paulie Partonen to be able to hold on to that position.
Usually you don't want to try and go too wide through that corner, so impressive that they managed that, but this did cost them. They're about a second and a half behind T now, and this allowed Gsrc to catch up along with all those behind him. A little bit of a challenge, it looked like, in the background on Tolinen from Kopke, but he has to back out of it.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of aggression here from these drivers. I think they're trying to maybe take some opportunity to be able to get ahead at places you wouldn't normally think of doing it, Joe. And that shows to me that, number one, they're a little bit worried about the draft's efficacy, trying to catch some people napping over the course of the lap. And number two, it's going to make for a pretty fantastic race if they're that aggressive this early.
Looks like Matthias Hovdal, who had an internet connection issue, has come back. Well, not going to be able to repeat the win he had in the Camel Series yesterday afternoon, but he'll try and catch up as many positions as he can. Looks like he's already about 3 minutes behind the nearest car. On board with Gsrc in fourth place once again. And we now had a problem with Tomasz Bartfai in the number 25 car. That's towards the back of the field. Not sure what happened there. We're still not done with the first lap of this race. Partonen continuing to slip 10th after 10th behind Andy T, which doesn't sound like much, but if T can break that slipstream, that could be lights out for everybody else.
Yes, it could. And right now, Andy sits about 1.4, 1.5 seconds ahead, and that's going to be outside the effective draft range. So he's doing exactly what he needs to do. As they run their way down through the mini carousel, though, that gap coming down to about 1.3 seconds. And at that point, Paulie's going to get a whiff of the draft. It may not be enough to get him fully alongside, but he'll at least be able to hold on just a little bit to the back of that number one.
Oof, almost losing control there coming onto the Dadi Nurhoa. And that did cost him some speed. It's 1.2 seconds now, but it is coming down, so he's feeling the effects. Now we start to see what most of the racing is going to look like here, as they're already up to 180 miles an hour. Tolinen on Pep Meyer goes on to the left-hand side. Meyer can't do much about it. He might lose two now. Here goes Kopke as well, and it looks like Ben is going to try for a 2-for-1, but he starts to lose top-end speed.
Yeah, and that can happen. You've got to time that draft absolutely perfectly, as there we see the 13 of Kopke trying to hold on a little bit as they bring their way down through the corner. Kopke trying to keep it together. Oh, contact, and that's going to be Kopke off and into the Armco.
Oh, climbed the wall. Somehow the car gets off of there, but I can't imagine it is in good condition now. So he is already under threat, and yeah, he's pulling out of the way. He knows that he's got a wounded car. He's spun off. His race is done. That promotes a few drivers up. So now it's going to be Tolinen back to 5th, Petmeyer to 6th. Sharman goes into 7th position. Partonen cut it down to about 9/10 of a second up to Andy T, but it's already stretching once again.
Yes, it is, and Andy just looking like he's trying to pull away here through the lower speed sections of the track, and I wonder a little bit, based off of that data, if Andy's running perhaps just a little bit more of a trimmed down setup. He's got a little bit more downforce into the car, and that could be slowing him on the main straightaway, but if he's able to get away and break that draft, he doesn't have to really start worrying about a whole lot.
So I'm looking at the top speed in comparison, and he seems about the same as Partonen behind him. There is more speed for Kortenemi, who was pulling the slipstream. So interesting stuff. I think he's about set up the same as Parley from what I'm seeing, but it's sometimes hard to tell. So as we watch from on board, our current championship leader, leading not just this series of Lotus 79s, but also the Lotus 49s on Saturday mornings as well.
Yeah, and that is a very, very impressive 1-2 punch there. The Lotus 49 and the Lotus 79. While they're both old school cars, they are so different in the way that they drive. No downforce on those Lotus 49s whatsoever, and so much downforce in the form of ground effect here in the 79s.
Now, I think we got a chance to take a look at the start finally, which includes Ove Trangerade's incident. Let's see if we can figure out what happened to him. Did he have help, or did he spin it up all on his own? There they go, down to the relatively newly named Sabine Schmitz, used to be the Nord curve, and spun it up, it looks like.
Yeah, maybe just a little too much into the throttle there. Those rear tires spinning up a little bit coming out through the corner. Remember, we talked about what can happen with some of the low tire temperatures.
It was Kopke's incident. It looks like maybe a little bit of ghost contact involved in it as well. And the car just popped up there quite a bit. This is Tomasz Bartfai. Let's see what happens to him. Oh, he's just going to take it into pit lane, so he's already dealing with his damage. And then somebody having a problem into the mini carousel. That's Matthias Hovdal, who's still catching up, but it looks like he's able to carry on regardless. So Hovdal actually only a minute behind. Looks like Kopke, who's no, he's still taking repairs, so he's still got 3 minutes to make up to Bartfai there in the number 25. Here's Gernot Frische, third in the points, but currently sitting 10th. And he's going to try and get a run on Armando Edwards as they climb up the mountain to the top of Kesselchen.
Oh, this is some brave stuff to be able to do it, but there goes Gernot sweeping around the outside. That is just full commitment there to be able to get by Armando Edwards.
One spot down, next one is a second and a half up the road to John Bailiff in 8th place. A little bit of smoke, looks like somebody locked it up coming into Stylestrecke that time, excuse me. But everybody in this grouping is okay as they head towards the famous carousel.
Yes, they do a little bit more brake lock up there, and I think that may have been Bailiff, actually, that got onto the binders a little bit too heavy. We saw there a little bit earlier what can happen if you misjudge that corner from Matthias Hovdal. You get up out of the banking, and that corner is wildly different and not nearly as fast as we've got a car around big contact.
Oh, LaBrosse, and did everybody manage to avoid him? No, looks like we got a couple other cars involved. That's Kimmo Viekainen. Trying to figure out where this took place. I think this is up to Hoa Oct, possibly. Ooh, and car contact. This is what we were talking about in the pre-race here, DJ, that usually the only places to try and actually pass is on the straights.
Yeah, indeed it is. You've got to be very, very aggressive. We're going to take a look on board here with drivers behind, and you can see just how blind it is coming around to that there, Joe. As you see here, let's watch on board with that yellow machine of Pat Lambros. He's going to come up over the corner, and yeah, this was just front to rear contact, unfortunately. Very easy to avoid, but also when you're sucked up behind in the draft, so very easy. Millward just not prepared there for that checkup.
Yeah, that's the quick chicane just before Hoa Oct there that they ran into one another. So I guess not anticipating the cars ahead of him going slower. And this has taken out Alex Millward, it looks like. So despite him starting from pit lane to avoid problems, it looks like it went south for him anyways. Meanwhile, we're back with Partanen in second place. Down to 0.8 of a second, 0.7 of a second. Looks like he was closer this time onto the Dodinger Hoa. How much of a difference will this make?
Well, we're going to see there. You can see him clocking some pretty good overspeed there. 180 miles an hour out of these Lotuses is nothing to shake a stick at. And he's going to be able to get that gap down under 0.5 of a second as they bring their way down into Tiergarten.
Yeah, about 2 miles an hour faster than T with that little bit of slipstream that he was feeling the effects of. They now complete lap 2. Portinima was about the same distance back, so the top 3 staying together. Partanen runs the fastest lap of the race in the meantime. Schleret just barely holding on behind them in 4th. You can catch glances of him in the background.
Yes, indeed, and Schleret is going to be hoping to be able to keep a good touch with that slipstream up ahead of him, but he does have about 3 seconds back to Jukka Tolvanen, so it's not like he's got to worry about pressure from behind necessarily, and that's a pretty good position for Theo to be in.
Just under 6 minutes these drivers running right now, and that's with race setup, full tanks around these things. They're going to change so many of their characteristics before this is over. Up and over fluke plots, these cars suck to the ground, not quite like the 49s, which tend to like to leap into the air through there. But still, every ounce of speed is going to count, especially along this portion up towards the Swedish Cross, where it's just about as fast as Dodinger Hoa, just a lot twistier.
Yes, it very much is. You've just got to see what it is. Little bit of a brake clock up there from in front. Not sure who that was coming off of. Maybe Andy T having a little bit of feel of the pressure.
That's still at about 0.6 of a second. And T knows the game here. He knows that they're going to be able to pull up on him. I got to think that that one car is pushing as hard as he can in the twisty bits.
Yeah, he is, and he knows it, but he looked a little bit off the line there coming up through the chicane. That's going to hurt him as he runs. It's still the gap at about 6/7 of a second right here. That's not going to be enough. He is going to know that he is going to be under attack from Paulie Parton, and if he can't bring that gap out a little bit more.
Now, this is the top of 3 splits, which is usually the best of the best, and frankly, it is the best, but more in terms of speed. This is split instead of by iRating, but by qualifying time because of this being a unique round. So this is all the quickest drivers rather than the highest iRated drivers, and sometimes that can mean we have a few drivers that are prone to mistakes, but we've only lost 4 of them so far: Millward, Kopke, Labrosse, and Trangerade. Hovdal and Bartfi have been into pit lane since then, but we still have 21 drivers running.
And that's a really impressive statistic, Joe. I know you are a big fan of the Nürburgring, but I will tell you that I can't get around half of this track over the course of 1 lap. So the fact that we have got this many drivers out there being able to keep everything on the black stuff, it's just a testament to how good of racing this is as we go back to check out a replay.
And it appears I have spoke too soon. Gary Ho and Kimmo Viekainen come together. That looks like Metzgefeld there. And up on his lid, I think that's Gary Ho, unfortunately ending his day. Someone having to sneak by. That's the last thing you want to see. It's a narrow track already. A car on its lid taking up half the course.
Yeah, it really is, and it's one of those things that when you're driving around here, we don't often think about just how tricky it is when a driver in front of you gets into a problem, but this is a very, very narrow circuit all the way around. It's one of the things that makes overtaking so difficult, and so when you have that kind of track blockage, it can really throw you off.
So we carry on now, getting ready to complete lap 4. Well, I say getting ready to. We still got about half the lap to go on this one. And here is the battle for 11th place as Josh Germany sees Karthik Pai behind him. A little bit farther down than we're used to seeing the number 9 car. Still trying to get into the top 10 here as they break for Style Strecke, heading towards the carousel, which has actually got another upside-down car. Henry Sharman, apparently the latest of all victim to the ring.
Oh, we jinxed these guys hard here today, Joe. Yeah, that looks like he has had his little bit of a problem. Let's go back and check out the replay of exactly what happened to Henry.
And down, just in a little too hot, and it backed into the Armco, unfortunately. The carousel, really one of the most unique corners in all of racing. Boy, that almost put Bailiff off, and he did a good job of holding on to that.
Yeah, he did. And to your point there, Joe, it really and truly is a massively, massively cambered corner. But because of the way the track sort of dives down into that cambering, you've got to slow yourself up before really getting on the loud pedal around there. It's a very, very difficult corner, an underrated difficult corner.
Yeah, it's very single file on top of things, and we've seen single file multiple times already. Wow, he got away with that one. Trying to make out who this is in the Renault that had issues, and we got another of our Essex Lotus cars with problems. Wow, another driver getting lucky. Freesia avoiding, was that Bailiff that he just went by there?
I believe it was Bailiff having that big old spin around the corner, and so he's able to catch up on that. And by the way, the other car that got very lucky there, that was Jean-Francois Boscus, I believe, that we were able to see.
Cortinemi just had a problem, and he's out. Our championship leader, a 0 score for him here today when Andy T is leading. This is a huge problem for the number 3 car. What caused this one? He starts to get loose. And he gets hit by Theo Schleray, maybe it looks like.
Yeah, he does. Doesn't look like there was a whole lot of damage to Schleray's car necessarily, but this is just a little bit of snap oversteer that you can get sometimes in these Lotuses. Let's watch on board here. Watch his hands as he comes around the corner, tries to catch it. The car catches back up, and yeah, Schleray just hits him.
Bounces off him like a wedge. I think you're right. Schlure looks like he got away without any damage. So very, very lucky on that one that he just scooped him up, but unlucky for Portinemi, who maybe would have just had a bad hit. Could have maybe repaired the car and kept going, but that second one definitely took him out in a big way. Meanwhile, we come back to the battle. It looks like for, I think, 6th place now as drivers continue to pick up spots. Freesia leads Bailiff, leads Edwards.
Yes, indeed. We continue to work our way around right now, though, trying to see if there's going to be any gaps there. Partonen able to keep that gap at about 1.4 right now. I think Bailiff has had a problem, though.
Oh, another one to slip off. We've seen a lot of this today. You talked about warming the tires up, but by this point, we're halfway through the race. Surely the tires have to be in working temperature. And so many of this has just been drivers making unforced errors.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's just a little bit of target fixation. You've got that car in front of you. You're over-committing to the corner a little bit and really trying to push as hard as you can, and that's coming back to bite him here.
Yeah, I definitely shouldn't have said anything earlier. We have got half a dozen cars in the pit lane. We've got about 4 or 5 more that have officially retired. Karthik Pai is trying not to become another one of those statistics as he decides to say single file down through the Swedish cross and then into Ehrenberg. That's Josh Germany still in front of him, but both of them have now made it into the top 10 just by attrition.
Yes, they have, and a very, very good call here, I think, for both of them. You're seeing some good reserved driving from Karthik Pai, not wanting to push too far ahead, keeping everything nice in line and not being overly aggressive. This is a good call here from Karthik.
Now, I hope I'm not cursing him, and if so, T is going to be extremely mad with me when he goes back and watches this. But he usually points out that this is not one of his strongest tracks. If Andy T is able to take a win here, that's really bad news for everybody else who's hoping for a championship, because that's going to just reinvigorate him, and I got to think it'll make him want to show up even more.
Yeah, I think so as well, but he's not completely out of the woods. That gap is still hovering at about 1.4, 1.5 seconds, and we've seen the ability to close down. Andy had a little bit of a slower run there through the top of the course, and that's going to slow him down a little bit. We ride on board here with Paulie Partonen, and you can see him is now, I think Andy may be listening to the broadcast and responding to me, growing that gap up to about 1.6 seconds.
Yeah, great exit here into Kesselchen. You can see just how much of a climb this is. This track goes over 1,000 feet up and down over the course of a lap. Multiple stories. Just unbelievable. There's nothing else like it in the world. And Partonen, who is trying to gain on him, has it down to about 1.3, so he's got some of it back. It seems like maybe 1.5 seconds is the limit for that slipstream, and it isn't all that powerful by that stage. But now they head towards the carousel once again. What this has done, that incident that Schlure had, has put him a little too far back now. He's about 4 seconds behind.
Yes, he is. He sits about 4.5 seconds behind us. Ooh, Karthik Pai able to finally get that move done on Joshua Germany. Move Pai up into P8.
Did he do that in the Bravery Corner? It doesn't look like quite Bravery Corner. I think just before it is where he managed to overtake. So Karthik Pai is now into 8th. Let's take one more look at the pass. And this is where the name comes in. We've already seen how treacherous it is trying to go too wide. He knows it, and he finds an opening and just about times it right.
Yeah, really beautiful pass there from Karthik Pai. And, you know, if you're going to get a pass done on another portion of this track that's not the Dottinger Hoa, you have got to have full commitment to be able to send that. Now, for Joshua Germany here, he just needs to be able to focus behind and try to keep within about a second going on to the Dottinger Hoa, and he'll have a chance to fight back.
Yeah, that's true. Will this swap right back around? And will Karthik Pai be ruining things as they come up... it looks like into, I think this is Ashbrook right here. Yeah, down into Brunchen. Also nicknamed YouTube Corner. But unfortunately no more, as drivers, or as fans are no longer allowed to watch from that portion as they used to. Then into the ice curve. And they get into one of the parts where sometimes drivers can get airborne here. This is Flansgarden. Just see a hint of it, but the car's sucking to the ground well, using those ground effects to keep them flying along, more metaphorically than literally around here, and they head up to Swallowtail.
Yeah, they worked their way through there. And important to note, Joe, those ground effects, that is basically tunnels underneath the car that are designed to suck the car into the track. It really creates a virtual suction cup that is just holding the cars into the track. That was the hallmark of these Lotus 79s, obviously copied again into modern Formula One with the new design on the 2022 cars. And I think we can tell from experience it has made some fantastic racing, both in the 79s and in modern day.
It really has, and I'd say that Germany's held tight like he needed to within 0.3 of a second upon exiting Gallows Hill. So, Karthik Pai leads, but I don't know how long this is going to last. Andy T takes the fastest lap of the race up ahead of them, and Josh Germany with a big run pops out. Does he have enough slipstream, enough straight line speed to continue the pass? There is the rub right there. As soon as he gets into the clear air, it hits him. He slows down. Now it's a game of chicken, and unfortunately, falling victim to that game, Karthik Pai hits the wall.
Ooh, and a good avoidance there from Nico Morelli, but just some of that high speed coming together there. That game of chicken not playing out for Karthik, the Texan, having a big problem here.
The latest of many. We're almost to the point where now half the cars have been involved in incidents and wrecked out here today. He has had to take a short tow into pit lane. Thankfully, he was just about there, so it won't be a long wait for him before they can maybe get some work done on his car. I mentioned T taking the fastest lap. That's put him 1.6 seconds ahead of Pauli Partanen now.
Yes, it has. And Joe, I think just as you said that, it tickled upward near of 2 seconds. Andy T really starting to put the hammer down here over Pauli Partanen, and you can see the visualization of that gap on your screen right now. Andy T really starting to pull away. Clearly likes this car with a little bit less fuel in it.
Of our drivers that have taken repairs, only one has managed to get back out and keep going. Henry Sharman in 14th. Remember how I mentioned Matthias Hovdal having to start well behind everybody because of an internet connection issue? Well, he's now a minute behind Henry Sharman. So he does have a little bit to make up to get that one spot, but going from 25th, he is now 15th. It was absolutely worth it for him to pop the car back here.
Yeah, it most certainly was, and that's the kind of determination and perseverance that you really need to have when you're racing a race at the Nürburgring. You can pick up some valuable points by just being careful and just getting yourself back out on track, and kudos there to Hovdal for doing it.
Down through Defense Valley, the Raccoon Racing driver of Andy T leads the way up to 2.3 seconds over Partanen now. He is really gapping that number 4. And this is going to absolutely help him as he comes to the penultimate lap next time by. And Partanen, actually double checking, I'm pretty sure he's raced a couple times this season, but looks like not very many because I'm not seeing him high up on the standings right now. So I'll have to dig into that a little later to see how many times he has shown up. This has pulled the fields a little ways away from one another. But one that might be brewing is that Josh Germany, we don't know if he got any sort of damage from that contact because Morelli is starting to catch him.
Yes, he is. That gap hovering at about 1 second right now as we ride on board with Nicholas here, working their way down through the corners up into Kellengard here, trying to see what they've got. And yeah, it's definitely hovering about, it was as low as about 0.7 of a second not too long ago.
All right, so can he make up that 1 second? He's going to feel the effects of the draft here coming up through Kesselchen. Looking for the marker for Bravery Corner here. It's the swift left hand you're going to see coming up right here. And in some cars, there's just barely a lift, maybe a brush of the brakes. And these things, I got to think, DJ, it's probably flat out through there.
Yeah, it is, with the ground effects that you're able to get going in these Lotus 79s. And the one thing to start thinking about here at this point in the race, Joe, is that lighter fuel load. Now, these cars are very, very sensitive to changes in weight, and as that fuel burns off, we like to say that they become absolute rocket ships in a straight line. Super, super fast, but they do get a lot more twitchy as they run. They're a little bit more prone to some of that snap oversteer that we saw. So drivers, while they're going to be able to go quicker around this circuit, they've got to be a little bit more careful not to push over. As whoo-hoo, that was the number 4, Paulie Parton, and getting a little bit of air.
Oh, man, that has got to be frightening. Last car you'd ever want to be up in the air on the iRacing service as he heads through the back and forth of the Beloff S and then into Swallowtail. Big crest here before you head down into the mini carousel. He can still see Andy T. He's got it back down to about 1.4 seconds. So it grew for a moment, and it seems that maybe Partonen a little bit quicker through this back half of the circuit. That magic 1.5 seconds that we mentioned earlier. Let's see what it does down the Dottie Nerhoa.
Yes, let's see. Indeed, 1.4 seconds as they enter and closing down. It does look like Paulie Parton is going to be able to get a little bit of that overspeed just tucking behind in the draft as that gap continues to shrink.
So 1.2. See if he can maybe get it down to 1 second flat by the time they get to the end under Antonius Beach there. That's that little kink by the bridge. And then they come up into Tiergarten and Hohenrad. There they slow the cars up and then accelerate away. Obviously the old circuit used to go straight. There they'd have a little bit of a run past the pits. It turns around, comes back, and then heads back through this portion right here into the Nordschleife proper. This time it's Partonen with the fastest lap of 54.4 versus the 55 flat that Andy T ran. So Partonen turning up the wick a bit, trying to ensure that he does not lose touch with the number 1.
Yes, indeed, but look there at the gap that Andy's already been able to regrow going down through the first couple of corners there. It's already back up to 1.8 seconds.
Speaking of regrowing, let's stay here, but I can tell you that Morelli has lost ground to Josh Germany after he caught up to him a little bit. So Germany's been able to get used to whatever damage is on the car and has started to stretch his gap over the 9th place position. Partonen's perspective here as we hop on board the helmet cam. That's the Swedish Cross down at Ehrenberg. It slows down for a brief moment and then another fast portion. This valley is fearsome. Even has a part called compression where the G-forces absolutely slam the car into the pavement here at the bottom.
Yes, they do, and it's one of the things there. You can almost feel it there as you watch your way around. Just the elevation change around this circuit does look like there the Paulie was able to gain a little bit back coming through that section of the track. The gap down to about 1.6 and closing.
So now flying through Metzgefeld. There's going to be a big drop in elevation here for quite some time from here on down. This is down into Kallenhard. Long right-hander. You can see how tricky it is through there, through the Spiegel curve. And then one of the most famous corners, miss, hit, miss. 3 apexes, almost flat out. And then it's a downhill braking into Defense Valley. Still hovering at about 1.7 seconds behind Andy T. Those yellow-gloved hands working furiously inside the cockpit.
Yeah, and I love that you can see this, Joe. You're able to see all of the little micro corrections that have got to be put into this car to drive it straight. There you see just a little bit of oversteer that he had to kind of correct for, catch around the corner. Again, that's going to be becoming more and more prevalent as these cars get lighter and lighter and lighter on fuel. That rear end is going to want to snap out any chance it gets.
Little corrections coming around Bergwerks, and then back up the hill they go. Flying at 165 miles an hour already through Kesselchen as the track weaves back and forth It's pretty much all flat out, even as we mentioned earlier, through Bravery Corner until they get to Stijlstrecke, and they finally have to slam on the brakes. And there used to actually be a version of the track at Stijlstrecke that went straight, and it was a massive, massive climb. You can actually still get there at the real track, and it's almost difficult to walk up. It's that steep.
Just the history of this track, Joe, never fails to amaze me as there they work their way through the carousel proper, bringing it back on. None of those problems there that we saw some of the earlier drivers have, but it is down to about 1.3 seconds here, so Paulie's starting to close in on this middle sector.
Absolutely, and they continue to weave back and forth. It's about 6 seconds now to Theo Schleret, who's still looking to pick up a handy podium himself. Jukka Tolvanen been promoted up to 4th from his 8th place starting position. Biggest mover right now is Andreas Schuster in the number 19. He's up 14 spots, having qualified in 24th, second to last on the grid. And I got to think a lot of that is just down to keeping the car whole here today.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. This is really and truly the ultimate circuit of, in order to finish first you must finish. Doing a fantastic job to be able to keep everything together, and unless my eyes deceive me, that may be a little bit of All-American Eagle tribute livery there on that car, and I'm a big fan of that.
Awesome stuff there. The drivers in this series do love their homages. As we come back to Partanen in the meantime, who is still at about 1.4 seconds, so he gained 0.3 since we last looked through the mini carousel. Here's where he really needs to stay tight to him. The 1.3 is a little closer than before. Will this be enough to at least get him within touching distance of Andy T?
Well, we'll have to see. 1.3 seconds now as they run. That's going to be within that crucial draft range, and it's going to be a little bit closer than he was last time around. So as they come to the white flag, let's see. T only really able to get that car up to 178 miles an hour, slowly working its way forward. Partanen going to have a little bit of overspeed here.
Yeah, T running 176, 177 for Partanen. In the slipstream, it's down to 1.1 seconds. That's not going to be quite enough. They're already heading to the end of this straight and into Tiergarten now. Cars all slow up and then get turned in. It was down to about 1 second once they hit the brakes. White flag is out. One more lap to survive.
And that is definitely the phrase to use on it, Joe, as T sets the fastest lap with the 5:53.366 as he works his way through now, trying to see what they're going to be able to get. And T holding on to that 1.2 second lead.
T is one of those drivers that is not always necessarily motivated by wanting to be the driver that is always there to win. He wants to just more prove himself over anything from what I've gotten to know of him. And I get the sense that today he had been preparing and getting ready to prove that he isn't scared away by the ring, prove that he can be fast here too. And so far, he's been doing that in spades, but he's not, as DJ put it, out of the woods. He's not out of the mountains here at the Nürburgring. He's got to finish just this one more lap, and he's only about a second ahead of one of his teammates right now. He's got to stay fast. He's got to stay clean if he wants to take this victory. And I'll have to check his stats and see if he has actually won a broadcast race at the ring before, if this is going to be his first time.
I'm not entirely sure. I couldn't tell you, Joe. We'll have to double check on that. But as we said, not out of the woods yet here. That 1.4 seconds, that's not going to be enough for him to necessarily sleep easy coming around this last part of the track. And indeed, that gap looking like it's coming down a little bit as they work their way through the corners.
Watching this pair, this is actually one of our closest battles at this point. Everybody else is very much spread apart, so this allows us to really watch these two. No, Partanen's had a problem, I think. He looked slow for a second. Oh, he went off.
Oh.
He went off out of Metzgefeld.
Oh my goodness gracious, we ride on board here with Paulie Parton and getting very, very flirty with there at the outside and just a little bit of that oversteer. A great catch from Paulie, but unfortunately that's really going to scupper any chances he has of taking this victory away from Andy T.
He's honestly lucky that you could see how close the Armco is at that part of the track. The fact that he managed to catch it in time and just kind of scoot through the grass, allowing him to race on, really saved him. So as they work their way through about half the lap now, just about done with this one. Partonen maybe backing it off a bit from here, trying to at least get to the end of this race, take that second place, knowing that he's got that under wraps. Or is he still going to push? Is he still going to try and do his best to gun down T to the 3 seconds that he lost?
Well, I know one of the things here as you drive this circuit is this is definitely a place that where you if you back off a little bit, that can actually throw your rhythm off as you run. And so you really have to be 100% full commitment all the way around this circuit, no matter what happens.
Well, that robbed us of the one fight that was still close. I can say that Daniel Downing and Pepe Fuentes are sort of close to one another. That might be a draft battle if they get to the long straights. There's about a second between them. But again, that's for 11th spot, so that's way behind. I was talking about Matthias Hovdal and his trying to have a lonely race up to at least get by somebody on track. Well, he's still a minute behind Henry Sharman, so unless Henry is way off pace, which it doesn't look like he's that far off the pace, I think Matthias is just going to have to run this entire thing on his lonesome. Oh, Downing's had a problem. So something has happened, and Boskus now has as well.
Oh my goodness.
What in the world happened here?
Well, let's go back to check out the Gsrc replay. These two are running a little bit closer together than I would anticipate. Downing looks like he's just had a problem there. There's already some damage. Oh, and that looks like two separate incidents, I think.
Yeah, almost at the same time, and Downing did a good job of staying out of trouble. Amazingly, Boskus is still going and trying to stay ahead of Downing. Let's watch from Boskus's view. Yeah. Not sure if that was a lift to let Jean-Francois by or if he was genuinely trying to catch the car, but that looks like it was into Bergwerks.
Yeah, and I think there from Boskus, that was just a little bit of an incident of recognizing that car, not really seeing a whole lot of other cars around him, and having a little bit of incident fixation there, and just misjudging that run into the corner ever so slightly.
Oh, and now Nicholas Morelli has gone off, and it looks like Schuster had to take avoiding action to get around him. I think that is his day done. He tries to take off, and the car looks like it doesn't want to go straight. We'll get one more replay, and then we'll have to head off to Andy T, who's already on the Dottie Norhoa car. Just went around. Did he actually touch anything there? I don't think he did, Joe. I think that was just an issue there of catching the grass on the outside and that throwing him for a loop. We don't have 100% confirmation, but from what our statisticians have been able to dig up, we can't see a win on the broadcast races for Andy T quite yet. So this might be the first time that Mr. T has taken the win here at the ring. It's only 2 seconds ahead of Partonen, but it doesn't matter how big of a gap it is. A win is a win as Andy T takes a win at the Nürburgring.
Wiggling his tail in excitement there. Paulie Partonen will cross over the line about 2.5 seconds behind him, and Theo Schleret will round out your top three.
Tolinen just outside of the podium today, but still up by 4. Not a bad showing for him. Got some battles between Boskus and Downing still. Now, Boskus surely won't be able to do much in a straight line, although Downing does look like he has some damage on the nose of the car as well. But Jean-Francois took such a thwack into the wall. I can't imagine that he'll be very fast once they get to the Dottie Norhoa.
No, I can't imagine he will either. This is going to be a little bit of a slowdown there for him. It's not going to be the easiest run.
By the way, Andreas Schuster, who's on the Dottie Norhoa himself, up 15 now and easily past Boskus. Daniel Downing moves into 12th, but he's got to try and keep Jean-Francois from picking up the slipstream himself and be able to go back by. Look at the rear wing on that yellow number 17. It is absolutely destroyed, but that doesn't matter to him. If he's got a hole in the air, he's not having to push anything with that wing. He's going to try and go by, but good luck keeping that speed up. And as soon as he pops out into the clear air, nothing doing there, and Downing knows it. He knows he has the advantage here coming into the braking, unless he gets wrecked out by Boskus, who has a moment, but I think he's going to be able to limp home after that scary moment into Hohenrenn.
Yes, I think he is as well. Barely able to get it around, but able to get it around nonetheless.
That's going to take us to a quick break. We got a couple cars that are trying to come home. It's going to take a while, so we'll let them do their thing as we head off, and we'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Welcome back to the Nürburgring. The Nordschleife put on event number 7 for the season, and Andy T managed a victory by our estimations, his first ever broadcast win here at the ring in the 79s. Pauli Partanen finished second behind him, a little distance behind. A mistake on the last lap cost him any realistic chance at trying to challenge him for the win. Theo Schleray was third to round out the podium. Jukka Tolinen finished fourth, climbing up from 8th as Pep Meyer finished behind him in 5th. How about Gernot Friesche, though? once again, kind of doing his thing, quietly gaining places through the race, even though he hasn't been the fastest out there, and he finishes 6th in the end. Armando Edwards was 7th as Josh Germany finishes 8th. Then it's Andreas Schuster, our hardest charger of the entire race, up 15 positions to finish 9th. Pepe Fuentes rounded out your top 10.
In 11th, it was Nico Morelli, followed by Daniel Downing with Jean-Francois Boscus in 13th and Henry Charman in 18th. Matthias Habdahl was able to finish 15th on the lead lap there despite starting from the pits. And there we get into some of the drivers that had some trouble over the course of the race. Bailiff, Pai, Kortenemi, Viekainen, and Gary Ho.
And from there, Pat Labrosse was amongst our DNFs along with Bart Vi, Kopke, Millward, and Trangarate today. A lot of drivers falling victims, which is no great surprise around here. But what is a bit of a surprise is the fact that Andy T managed to win one. And let's check with him to see if he knows. Andy, by our estimations, this is your first broadcast win at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Second broadcast race here as well. Like, to have done this is just mind-blowing. I remember watching Tamas and Teemu Vaskalampi like absolutely flying around here and thinking, I cannot do that. So to win here is just humbling.
I'm sure it means a lot. And you know, I theorized, because from what I've been able to tell, you seem like someone really driven by your own desire more than anything else to prove yourself. Was that a big thing today? And how much preparation did you have coming into this week?
Not as much as I'd like. And on that point about like pushing myself, I have to thank Hoops for this, because I went out for a walk a few weeks ago saying like there's just so much pressure on myself to do amazingly well and win these races. And she's like, no, there isn't. Just drive, man. Like, you're fast and do your best. And if you don't win, learn from it. And it's like, it goes out to everyone driving. Just do your very best. And there's honestly no limit to where you can get.
I love that. That's a fantastic lesson. Someday we'll have to get Toops on here to talk to them. But well, you've achieved the ring. I mean, you've already got a championship, multiple championships, I believe, to your name in this series. So, I mean, where do you go from here?
Just keep racing when I can. This car is so much fun. I'm just pushing so hard to get it popular, and it's going to be a hard slog. If anyone from iRacing is watching this, make the car free and give us races on the hour that are shorter. And I kid you not, this thing will skyrocket in popularity, absolutely skyrocket. So please do something, guys. I know you like to fob us off when we talk to you, but yeah, do something.
So a plead there. A very good points day here for Andy T over championship leader Topi Kortenemi. Congratulations, Andy.
Thanks. Just a quick shout out to the Raccoon Racing boys and Timo for the incredible community set. Guys, you didn't need to do much with setup this week. Take his set, tweak it a tiny bit to your driving style, drop a little wing out, and you can win this race. Like, no kidding. Big shout to Topi for pushing me this week with his amazing queue times, Hoops the fam, the extended fam, you guys. You know the drill.
That was Andy T, your winner here at the Nürburgring. And up next, DJ has caught up with Pauli Partsinen, who wound up second, just a few seconds behind.
Yes, I did. And Paulie, that looked like a pretty good battle there pretty much the entire way through with Andy. How close were you to catching him down?
Yeah, very close. I had very good speed on the last laps, but sadly I made a mistake on last lap and I lost the possibility to overtake Andy. He drove perfectly this race like always and was very hard to beat, but I had very good start, like amazing start, maybe the best start I ever had, and I was able to overtake Topi, and I think that was very crucial for my race because I didn't have to battle with Topi too much in that race, so I was able to just focus on Andy and trying to catch him.
Well, I mean, talk to me about on that last lap. It looks like you had a little bit of a problem there that maybe scuppered any chance of going after Andy on that back straightaway. How do you kind of regain yourself after a little incident like that?
I didn't. I made another mistake after that, so I didn't catch myself very good. But yeah, I was trying to be fast as I can. Like, I had nothing to lose. I'm not racing any championship this season, so I was trying to push all I can. And well, this time it went like this, but maybe another time I could have maybe get into Andy's draft and maybe we could have a good race on the last lap, but not this time.
Well, we wish you luck in the best ones as you get there. But want to ask you about next time in the form of Detroit. Going to be very, very different here to the Nürburgring. How do you think that's going to go?
Well, I'm not sure yet. Will I race? Actually, I cannot race it. I'm not at home, but I have the last 2 races at Detroit. I think I have won the broadcast races. So I hate that track, but some reason always the broadcast races goes very well with me there. So sadly, I will miss it.
Well, we're gonna miss you to see you out there. But anybody you'd like to thank for this second place here today?
I want to thank my new SimCube. Very good base, really awesome job today, and also my pedals, amazing job also. Thank you.
All right, that was Paulie Partsonen, your second place finisher here today, and that brings us to Theo Schleret, our third place finisher. Joe.
Indeed, Theo, it looked like you had brief hope of holding on to the leaders for a little while, and then suddenly they got away. After that, was it mostly focusing on yourself and the track to make sure you get home?
Yeah, basically that was the case, but I knew from the beginning that I would have little to no chance to hope for a podium on the track, because even if my car has some great handling, I'm lacking of top speed, so I knew I could just hope to hang with the guys.
Well, as you hung on, you got a bit of a face full of other drivers, quite literally. What was going through your head when that accident happened and you ran into another car?
Well, basically, that was the brownest cut brown I've ever had so far. But yeah, basically, I had the long straight to calm down and get back into focus. And basically, at this moment, I was just about wondering if the car was okay. And basically, it was just some weird feelings under braking, but for the rest, it was fine.
I'm glad you got away with it. We were a bit shocked, especially with how violent it looked from our perspective. As we talked to Paulie about, the next race is not going to be much lighter in terms of challenge as we head off to Detroit. Will we see you there as well?
Well, sadly no, because next week I'm gonna head for the NEC, and basically at the moment I'm aiming at just driving around the Nordschleife. So theoretically you will see me again next time we come to this place in about 6 months.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for you. We're glad we had you because it was fun to watch, and congratulations on the podium.
Thank you.
That was Theo Schleret, and it looks like we're going to wrap it up after that. So we want to thank the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, of course, but also a big thank you to the team today, DJ, Ryan, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store as well. Links are in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, will be at Detroit Belle Isle. That'll be Sunday, August 7th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.